Good morning, everyone. It's Tuesday, September 17th, 2019, and we're winding down the 2019 North American Mite-a-thon. It runs until Saturday, September 21st. So I wanted to remind you of that, encourage you to get out there and do that work, and also want to look at how the Mite-a-thon is going in North America and in North Carolina, share a good resource with you, and also talk about the concept of detection threshold. Hopefully that can help you as you're thinking about as you're developing your own monitoring program, as you're developing and implementing your own monitoring program. Response to the North American Mite-a-thon has been good this year, looks like. Um, uh, People are lighting those counties up. It's good to see people out there doing that work. North Carolina is doing a fine job as well. As far as I can tell, we have about 35 of our 100 counties reporting so far. So that's pretty good. We have 100 counties in North Carolina. I think we can uh, do even better. So let's get out there and do that work. The keepbeesalive.org website, if you'll just type in keepbeesalive.org, that'll take you to the Michigan Pollinator Initiative website, and they have a whole bunch of very good Varroa resources. So monitoring and best management practices, stuff like that. So good videos. They have the links to the Mite Check app for your smartphone that can help you uh, with your sugar shakes and alcohol washes. So good tutorials and other good resources in those apps. You can also report your numbers right there in the app. Uh, of course, they have a link to the Honeybee Health Coalition document tools for Varroa management and other great resources. So if you have any questions about Varroa, this is a good resource. Also, you have NCDA apiary inspectors that are happy to help you if you have questions about uh, your monitoring program. So holler if we can help. A few weeks ago, I attended the Bees Academy that was put on by NCSU Apiculture, um, David Tarpey, and others. I attended the session in Lenore almost a month ago. The class in Pittsburgh finished up about 10 days ago. If you missed those, we have one more coming up in Bolivia in early October. So you can, I think, just Google NCSU Bees Academy if you need more information on that. But there was a concept that I learned at this seminar that I think has helped me, and I wanted to share it with you. On this chart, we have on one axis we have the percent infestation of Varroa over time, and this is what unchecked Varroa population might look like through the season. And we have the economic threshold, so it's important for us to keep our mite numbers below that economic threshold if we want to avoid problems. And that threshold's pretty low, 3% or 3 mites per 100 bees. And if you're doing a 300 bee sample, that means 9 mites in your half cup sample. 9 mites per 300 bees in your sugar shake or your alcohol wash. So that's an important number. 3%, 3 mites per 100 bees, or 9 mites in your half cup sample. There's another threshold. It's called the detection threshold. And it's important that your detection threshold be not above your economic threshold, but below your economic threshold. I see a lot of beekeepers who are not doing that monitoring, not doing good monitoring, and their detection threshold is through the roof. So if they are not monitoring at all, or if they say, "Oh, I didn't see any mites on my bees," their detection threshold is just so high as to be of no use. it's really important that detection threshold be low. It needs to be below your economic threshold so you can see when you need to take action. So with a economic threshold of 3%, it's important that your detection threshold be less than 3 mites per 100 bees. And if you're not doing alcohol wash or powdered sugar shake, it's unlikely that your detection threshold is below the economic threshold. Another thing to remember is, as far as treatments go, that they're not bulletproof. Um, 1/3 of the time they work as planned, so you have a high mite load, you apply the treatment, and at the end you have a low mite load, so things went the way they were supposed to. 1/3 of the time they work, but the mites spike. So you had a high mite load, you applied a treatment, then you had a low mite load, come back in 2 weeks or a month, and your mite load is high again. So what happened there? Perhaps you didn't kill the mites in the capped brood, and now that brood has emerged and you've got this high mite load, or it's possible that you've been reinfested from outside. 1/3 of the time the treatment fails. So you had a high mite load, you applied a treatment, and at the end you still had a high mite load. Sometimes it's higher than when you started. So I see beekeepers that are not using registered and approved methods, and that can go wrong. I see people using registered miticides but not using them according to the label, and that can go wrong. But I also see people that are using miticides correctly and having the problem. So just remember that the miticides are not a silver bullet. They can be a good tool, but you really have to do that post-treatment monitoring to make sure that that treatment got you where you needed to go. So it really underscores the importance of post-treatment monitoring and having good monitoring methods, good detection threshold. This beekeeper, uh, the, the, the dotted red vertical lines indicate monitoring points. So this beekeeper started monitoring at population buildup in the spring. Things were under control until late summer, where the mites hit that economic threshold. They took action, did some post-treatment monitoring to make sure things were under control, and then followed up with one last monitoring before they put their bees to bed for winter. So current best management practices, you need to be monitoring at least 4 times per year, starting with population buildup. So in the spring, as your bees go into explosive growth mode, that's when you need to start monitoring. It's not just, oh, I'll monitor in August thing anymore. And that monitoring needs to continue on until you put your bees to bed for winter. So in my neighborhood, that's about November 1st. Could be different in your neighborhood. Your mileage may vary. All right, so that's my little monitoring pep talk. I hope that's of some value, and I hope you guys will get out there and do the monitoring, show North America what North Carolina is made of, not just to make us look good, but to take care of our bees. So monitoring, you really need to monitor. You need good information to make good decisions, and monitoring is where you get that information. So let's get out there and do that work. We'll talk to you soon.